Ivy House in Dublin and waiting for the result of a meeting of the Ulster Unionist Council in Belfast is Minister for Foreign Affairs Brian Cowen. The decision will determine whether or not David Trimble and his party will once again join forces with Nationalists and Republicans in the Northern Ireland Executive. For the government, it's a crucial decision. The man in charge at Ivy House, at just 40 years of age, is in his fourth ministry. Ironically, he's largely unknown.
In some ways, he's a hangover to Civil War politics, because he views the world through such ferociously partisan Fianna Fáil eyes that he has, can scarcely accept the existence of other parties. I mean, he hates the blue shirts, or as he probably more accurately put it, he despises the blue shirts. He really doesn't have any feel at all for the Labour movement or Labour politics.
1 week from Monday will be sooner. This Monday, of course, is a bank holiday, so that will be delayed for a week.
He's emotional.
Yes.
He's moody.
Can be.
Is he a match for Peter Mandelson? Is he the kind of person who can bring unionists on board? Or is his stubbornness perhaps a difficulty in that situation?
Well, there may be a streak of stubbornness there, but I mean, if you're dealing with the unions, just take them for an example for a start. I mean, they're very, very trenchant in their views about where their tradition is and where it should be and everything like that. And they respect you when you speak your mind. I mean, if Brian Conner or any of us went up there and said, trying to butter up, as they say, butter up the unions, they just wouldn't believe it. I mean, they have more respect for you when you stand up for what you believe in.
Ulster Unionist Council is 850 or so members assembled here.
I often think of him a little bit like Bertie Ahern's Jeffrey Donaldson. Tomorrow will come. He's a very thorough individual and has the reputation of being somebody who won't let his bone go with the dog. We all know how he's referred to within cabinet circles, but I just think that somehow there's a different quality, a different skill required in terms of foreign affairs, and I'm thinking particularly of Northern Ireland. It's almost as though he lacks any reforming ability whatsoever, and that's very important. It's very important to people in Northern Ireland that they can see that sort of pragmatic approach that Bertie is capable of demonstrating. Brian Cowen, on the other hand, just appears to be detached. I reckon he's a lot more comfortable in Offaly or even in Dublin than he is in Belfast.
I would profile myself this way. I am unapologetic about being a Fianna Fáil man. I'm unapologetic about our party in terms of the contribution it can, is and will continue to make, only with the support of the electorate. We have to get out there and make sure we keep that support and build that support. So there's nothing presumptuous about it. But the problem with some of the modern discussions on politics is that Fianna Fáil has to get up and apologise for being Fianna Fáil. I am not of that ilk.
Brian Cowen's toughness, his no-holds-barred approach to politics, was cradled by the Cistercians in Roscrea.
The reason I went to Roscrea was that I had an uncle, a Cistercian there. So there was a connection, if you like, with the college, which is in County Offaly, of which I'm very proud. And so there was a family connection and a religious connection, if you like, in terms of he being a monk and a priest there. So that was my connection with the college. I'm very glad I went there. I think it was it sort of opened up horizons far younger than would have otherwise been the case, meeting people from different backgrounds. Not everyone was a GA man. Not everyone played Gaelic football and hurling primarily. but also got to know guys and it probably opened up my attitudes far sooner than would otherwise have been the case had I not done so. But clearly the major influences were still hometown and Offaly and all of that. And I think we're all shaped by our own home, the place we come from, more than anything else, and that would always be very much where I'm from.
The playing fields of Eton they were not, but school sports taught him both to take and to give punishment.
Down Roscrea, he was a good, tough student, and he wasn't looking for an easy life in college. He knew he wouldn't get it. College life in Roscrea was tough and preferred. I always believed they gave him a much broader education than academic.
Like any Offaly footballer, he's inclined to hit you when the referee isn't looking.
I was a front row forward, and I know how to deal with people like that.
Do you like him?
I do, yes, I do. I mean, you know, notwithstanding the fact that he's the most ferociously combative person in the Dáil and the most fiercely partisan in a party sense, you know, the bluff exterior hides a very keen intelligence.
Did you identify in the course of it?
The rarefied atmosphere of Ivy House is a far cry from Cowen's Offaly, but the politics of foreign affairs, especially the North, demand a steeliness and a toughness usually acquired through bitter experience. On hand, civil servants like Haughey O'Kelly, now head of the Anglo-Irish division. But it was the crucible of Fianna Fáil in the Haughey years which taught him his first political lessons. From the early 80s, leadership challenges to Charles Haughey were frequent and bitter, but he saw them off. Cowen's TD father lived through most of the heaves. Haughey made him a junior minister. He was widely perceived to be a Haughey loyalist.
Well, naturally, the Taoiseach was brought us in to have a chat with us about the present situation. And as a junior minister in government, naturally, I'm wholeheartedly supportive of Taoiseach in this particular issue.
Was that view unanimous at the meeting?
Well, I'm just speaking for myself. As an individual, as far as I'm concerned,
You would be voting for Mr. Haughey on
must be in
Wednesday.
support. Naturally, being a junior minister in government.
Were you?
On the night before his father died, in the conversation that ranged over many, many decades of politics, his late father, Burr, did admit to me that he felt, and many of his colleagues of his era, felt they made a mistake in supporting Haughey for the leadership in 79.
But he never gave any public indication
No,
of that.
he didn't. But what he said was, we made a mistake. We don't blame you guys that came in 77. You were only there a year and a half. But we should have known better that the conflict and confrontation that was going to come after there was one or other of them elected. Didn't matter which of them, he says, there was going to be. So we should have left the two of them aside and went for somebody else, just as they did when Jack Lynch was elected.
There was never a question of Haughey loyalism or anti-Charlie. The Fianna Fáil party took a decision in 1979 and Charlie Haughey was elected leader and he defeated George Colley. And he was entitled to the full loyalty of the party at that stage. Issues arose during that period of leadership. It was a very difficult period, very politically unstable time, very economically difficult time. And opinions changed as to whether Charlie was the man to do the job, to unify the party or whatever. And there were a number of decisions taken, and one can have a view as to whether there should have been quite so many heads or not. But the fact of the matter is, he had a democratic mandate from the parliamentary party. And my point is this, and it's true in, I think, the last one, my father would have voted against Charlie Haughey on the basis that he felt, in his view, it would be the best interest of the party if we moved on. That was a minority view and would have no problem accepting that. So therefore, my view on all these things is, what you do is you go by your best lights, you go in and you give your opinion. You vote according to what you think is the right thing. And whatever the collective view then is, you abide by it. If you have a problem with it, you have options, you can walk away from it. But it would never...
you can organise against it.
Well, I mean, you can, if you're so minded. My father was never so minded, neither was I.
In 1984, Burr Cowen died suddenly. Highly respected and hugely popular, hundreds attended his funeral. Walking directly behind the hearse, his son Brian led the mourners. He was the heir apparent to Burr. Charlie Haughey and Fianna Fáil plunged into the by-election. Although in opposition, Charlie Haughey exuded confidence. The recently qualified solicitor canvassed with ease.
Listen, lads, give me a chance to see what I can do, will you? Okay? Okay. Name on board generation. Right.
Brian Cowen, the 24-year-old son of the late Burr Cowen, has held the seat by more than 6,000 votes.
In spite of his impressive performance, Haughey left the young TD languishing on the backbenches. Some said he was too outspoken for Haughey's liking. He denies being a young man in a hurry and claims his time there was a useful apprenticeship.
The elected TD for Haughey is in itself genuinely something that gives me tremendous satisfaction. To be elected by your own successfully and successively indicates a great groundswell of support for one's policies and one's politics at local level, and at the end of the day that's where one garners strength in politics, is at the local level. Whether you get the chance to discharge responsibilities nationally after is for others to decide, but being given that opportunity at national level, one would hope then that you can prove your mettle and prove your ability to do the job.
Although he'd never admitted, being overlooked by Charlie Haughey was probably a political advantage. No one can accuse him now of being part of the Concili set. He's unlikely to be called before any of the current tribunals, but he gives no quarter to those he regards as Fianna Fáil's enemies.
What do you feel about the fact that in so many places in this country it's now regarded as a party of people on the make?
Well, I contest that in so many places. Where? I contest that. This party is 40% of the first preference vote in this country. I don't underestimate the discernment of the public. People are able to make the differentiation between an individual or a number of individual problems and a broad political movement that has served this country for over 70 years and will continue to serve, we hope, in a position of prominence on the basis that there is a political generation who have taken charge of this party, who have nothing to fear and who are here to do a job of public service, and we make no apologies to it. And of course there will be our political opponents will offer the brickbats and get up on the high moral ground and preach and suggest they're whiter than white, etc. The Fianna Fáil party standards don't have to be dictated to by anybody else. We will deal with this issue. Fianna Fáil isn't going to commit collective Harry Parry for anybody.